Doop-a-doo. Gonna quickly post this on Twitter. And then I'm gonna start. Okay. Did that. Gonna close that. And then I'm gonna open up the game like I'm supposed to. You know, it'd help if I actually did this beforehand. But I'm dumb. If I was smart, I'd do this first, and then I would start streaming. But I'm not smart, so I do it after. I am a sharp individual who does the things she's supposed to do instead of dumb. Oh, God. We'll finish it today. Because, like, we're pretty much right at the end. I didn't realize, is this one getting more red as time goes on, or is that just me? Let us begin! It ends this day. Oh, right, I forgot about the rain. Okay, I gotta read the new tips, because I didn't do that last time. Okay, that's 7th Mart. The 7th Mart was a bargain supermarket with food and alcohol. What's this, Keiichi? So many. There's no reason to get all the different kinds, is there? I flopped all the different colored cup noodle bowls into the cart. Cup noodles have gotten so elaborate recently, and there are a bunch of different types. I want to try each of them at least once. I knew it was pretty selfish of me, but I thought I'd at least give it a try. Keiichi, buy them in the big case. It's cheaper. Dad faltered. Well, I had a feeling it'd end up like this. Dad knew there was no point in him butting in. Then I'll only get to eat one kind. I'd get bored with it. I was resisting as a formality. I had already given up inside and wasn't sure which case of noodles to get. If you can't pick, then Mommy will pick for you. You don't have to rush me. I quickly searched the case of noodles for what I want. Pork, bone, and ginger, large cup? Hey, Keiichi, can't you get a more normal one? If I let Mom pick, she'll err on the side of safety and get soy sauce or salt-flavored. Salt-flavored cup noodles? Gross! Ugh! That just sounds disgusting. That just makes my stomach hurt. But that's just because I can't take in too much salt. Just so you know, kids, don't eat too much salt when you're younger, because your body will hate you and then make you hate salt forever. Pork bone is good. I don't want a big bowl of tasteless stuff. I remember insisting that the noodles I picked were the right kind. In this frozen memory in time, this encapsulated world, I didn't have the power to look around my surroundings. So I did what I could and reached out with my hearing and vision, sharpened my senses to find the presence I overlooked. No matter how much I searched my field of vision, I couldn't see Rena. I rewound the situation, searching. But of course, I couldn't find her. Then, was she spying at me from my blind spot? I go through the sound and presences again, looking. I could sense the other customers. They were all mixed about, moving as they pleased. There was nobody looking over this way, and no one tried to get behind me. Not here. Couldn't be here. Probably wasn't here. I would definitely notice if someone was right behind me, even if I wasn't on guard. I smiled royally at the thought of using a vague word like probably, right before contradicting it with definitely. Then I paused my mental replay as a chill ran down my spine. There was definitely a presence like a shadow behind me. There was a terror unlike any other. If a presence really had manifested behind me, I would definitely have turned around to check it. But the world had moved on, and there was no way for me to turn around. While carrying the frightening shadow on my back, I was gleefully running around the store searching for a case of noodles. Running through the instant noodle section, bad-mouthing my mom. But there was a presence constantly at my back, sticking to me like a shadow. No way to see what it was. Realizing now after the fact was horrifying and repulsive. In that moment of time, I was running around gleefully, carrying that cardboard box. Tip-tap. But listening to that moment again, I could hear footsteps other than mine going pit-pat with every step. While I was running, the sound of those barefoot steps going were right behind me running around gleefully in that closed-off moment in time. But I didn't hear it. No, I heard it. That's why I remembered it. I didn't think I had heard anything. That's why I didn't turn around. In that moment, the pit-pat of those footsteps were following me the entire time. I couldn't run faster and escape. I couldn't run any faster than I had run at that time. I couldn't turn around. I hadn't turned around before, not once. Then I returned to my parents and started talking. The shadow-like presence was right at my back. Since I didn't move, the shadow didn't move. This is why it made no sound. That was all. At that time, I hadn't taken a single step while talking with my parents. I was just standing there. This was undeniable. And yet, I heard it. A pit-pat. That shouldn't be. If I took 3 steps, it followed 3 steps. Wasn't that the rule? There was no sound other than that. At that time, the entire world had gone dark. A sudden darkness. It was the end of my reflective journey. I was tired. I wanted to end it. Someone turn on the light. Except my body couldn't move. As if I was sewn into that moment in time. My past self's hair stood on end. That's impossible. Now that's just breaking the rules. I hadn't moved, so you shouldn't be moving either. I couldn't move, so you shouldn't be able to move either. Follow the rules. Yet that sound echoed in the darkness once again. The hair on the back of my neck prickled up on end. It was so close that it was hard to tell whether it was touching the hair or not. Why couldn't I move, like how the presence was moving behind me? I quickly realized I could move. It's just that I was scared and didn't want to. But now was the only time I could turn around. It was something unforgivable in this moment in time, but I needed to turn around immediately. As if my entire being was trying to force me to stop, it began to administer a pain like a needle being struck into my every pore. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. A scream I was unable to vocalize. I turned around. At first, I didn't understand the meaning of it. What? What is this? The situation in front of my eyes is like a mouth biting an apple and slurping the juice, the way you would do with an apple. My mind was being eaten. It began to munch down, slurping the juices because it was like an apple, meaning what was in front of me was... God, that's disconcerting. Yes, it's time for murder. I see it in movies quite often, but what is it exactly? Multiple personalities are thought to be escapism. Multiple personality disorder is a form of escape? Correct. The exact mechanism is not fully understood, but it's believed to be a type of defense for the brain to retain mental stability. Hypothetically, poor people imagining themselves as wealthy is a form of escapism, is it not? Is this also a form of multiple personality disorder? I wouldn't go that far, but broad speaking, one could infer that. It's something that occurs in us all. Does a split personality occur when one cannot tell which is reality and which is the escape? That's difficult to say. There are some who agree with that, and some who disagree. There's no consensus. Then, is the occurrence of multiple personalities still an unknown phenomenon? Something not fully comprehended into the psychiatric field. Unfortunately, that is the current state of things. We can only put our hope in future research. But, sort of cool having a personality. What kind of people get split personalities? Recent studies find that those who develop it, or rather those who are more susceptible to developing it, may be genetically predisposed, or may have had an abnormal mental development. Some say the childhood abuse increases the chances. Speaking of which, Person A here experienced abuse as a child, didn't he? How sad. Person A has 7 different personalities. Let's watch a video of him. Right after these commercials! Yeah, that sounds about right. Detective! It's because I watched all the tips. God, that second tip is just, oh God, it disconcerts me. I guess I'd be lying if I said I didn't get any sleep. I tried to stay awake all night, but there were definitely gaps in my memory. I guess I kept nodding off and jerking awake in panic all night. I spent all night hugging the metal bat and sat on the top of the futon I used to barricade my door. Waiting, watching, just in case someone tried to break in through my window. If I left this spot, someone would break through the door, sending the futon flying and attack me. But if I stopped watching the window, someone would break through the glass and attack me. I tried telling myself that I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't sleep. The thought of being so vulnerable scared the living daylights out of me. If I sleep meant taking that risk, I didn't need it. It was so much better than just stay awake. At some point during the endless cycle of nodding off and jolting awake, light began to shine outside, but that was it. It wasn't so much the morning as it was just the sun simply having risen. I sneaked a peek through the curtains. Rena was gone. I couldn't see her anywhere, no matter how hard I looked. Finally, I could breathe a deep sigh of relief. The night was finally over. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired, but I didn't feel like sleeping at the moment. I still had time, but I needed to make my own breakfast, so I'd better get started soon. Skipping school was also an option. With my mom gone, it'd be easy to play hooky. Honestly, I debated it. The risk involved in leaving my house was incalculable. So staying holed up in here was probably my safest option, but staying here wouldn't solve anything. Oshi-san wouldn't help me without cold hard evidence. Neither he nor my parents. So unless I find some sort of proof, these restless nights would never end. I stretched my body, tilted my head back, and closed my eyes just like I did every morning. I regulated my breathing and regained my senses. Calm down, Keiichi Marabara. Let's go to school. Let's wait until they set their trap for me. But that didn't mean I was going to twiddle my thumbs. I needed to avoid that trap and secure ineffaceable evidence. Take note of the plates of any car that drives by. If I see someone suspicious, check their clothes and face. I wasn't just protecting myself. I was preparing myself to turn their attack against them and retaliate. The tension was similar to those two samurai were both aiming to slay each other with a single motion as they drew their katanas. I was not at a disadvantage. I would have a chance to retaliate. I finally felt a bit of courage growing in my chest. All right, let's go to school. I tightened my grip on Satoshi's bat. He was the only partner I could count on. Satoshi, please lend me your strength, and entrust your dying regrets to me, since you were probably murdered. I'll make sure I dispel them. With renewed resolve, I checked the clock. It was still early. Of course, I was going to school by myself today. If I didn't want to run into Rena or Mion, I needed to leave now. The shattered fragments of the cupboard were still strewn all over the entryway. Right, I meant to clean that up last night, but never got around to it with the phone call and everything. If my parents came back and saw this while I was at school, I would never hear the end of it. Still, I'd be wasting time if I cleaned it up right now, and considering what would happen if I ran to Rena or Mion, it wouldn't be too late to clean it up after I got home. Making extra certain that the doors were locked, I left the house. My uniform was still covered in mud from yesterday, so I left it in the washer. Today I was going to go to school in my tracksuit. By wearing a different outfit this morning, my mind was forced to accept that today was different from yesterday. I had a hunch. Today might be the day I get killed. Keep your guard up, Keiichi Marabara. The only one who gets to decide if today is my last is me. That's a pretty optimistic way of looking at it, Keiichi. Give you a thumbs up, boy. You can only do your best. As you, prepare for your own death. I spent the morning practicing my swing like it was my natural routine. After a while, Rena arrived at school. Our eyes met, but we said nothing. Rena said nothing about last night, as if it never happened. But I could see that those events were real by the wounds carved into her fingers. I just heard her telling Sadako and the others that the bandages were hurting for herself in the kitchen, though it wasn't like it bothered me. The details that Oshi-san shared about Rena's incident before her transfer played vividly in my mind. Now that I knew about it, I couldn't even dream of Rena as a cute, ideal girl. Kei-chan, I see you're still aiming for the nationals. It was Mion. I had already sensed her approach, so it wasn't that I wasn't that surprised. Oh, Mion, if you understand, then leave me alone. I'm busy practicing. I gave her a curt response without my usual jokes. Then I gave the bat an even larger swing, tactically keeping Mion from getting any closer. Hey, Kei-chan, take it easy. I think Mion got the message, but she still urged me to give it a rest. Homeroom's not that far off, is it? Just let me finish practicing. I swung the bat even harder as a sign of my refusal. Kei-chan, when did you get into baseball? Just recently. Recently? You mean yesterday? Don't ask if you already know. Oh dear. That's a very unsportsmanlike reply. You're distracting me. Go away. I ignored Mion and kept swinging. Normally she'd get mad or bored and leave if someone gave her the cold shoulder like this, but Mion just stood there, waiting patiently for me to stop swinging. I didn't sense any hostility, but we were at school, in plain view. I doubt she'd suddenly attack me here. Or was that too naive? Still, I was starting to get tired. Maybe it wouldn't be too bad to take a break and hear her out. You need me for something, right? What is it? Sweat pouring from me as I stopped swinging. I noticed my shoulders were heaving as I breathed. I cursed my lack of exercise. At this rate, I might not be able to move as needed when the time came. I should probably keep practicing my swings to build stamina in addition to the excuse of carrying the bat around with me. Well, it's nothing important. If you're tired, I can ask you again later? No, it's fine. I'm only dealing with you right now because I judged the situation to be safe. Talking to you alone and away from the others? That's out of the question. Well, Mion was uncharacteristically trying to choose her words. But unlike Oshi-san, it didn't look like she was going to talk about something I'd rather not hear. Mion was puzzled, trying to find the right thing to say. But then she gave a hearty laugh to break herself out of the mire. This old man's just not good with this stuff. Having a poor vocabulary hurts. What's this all of a sudden? If you have something to say, just say it. Stop it. Stop that swinging. She cut straight to the point. Her request was so frank I didn't understand it for a moment. I had already stopped swinging to listen to her, hadn't I? I just stopped, didn't I? That's not what I meant. I want today to be the last time you swing that bat. I'm sorry. It took me some time to understand what she was asking for. What's wrong with swinging a bat? Why? It's none of your business, is it? I'm not bothering anyone, am I? You are. Mion said it flat out. That didn't make any sense, and that was really irritating. When did I bother anybody? Mion was at a loss for words, but she finally made up her mind and spoke, though she stuttered as she said it. But because, Kei-chan, that's someone else's bat. You shouldn't borrow it without permission. It was left behind by a student who transferred, right? I'm just borrowing it until he comes back for it. Huh? Yeah, he transferred. Mion grew uncharacteristically flustered. That made it all too clear that his transfer was a lie. But strange, isn't it? For the older brother to transfer by himself, while his little sister stayed behind. Mion couldn't hide her reaction as my words shook her up. Kei-chan! You knew? Satoshi Hojo. Sadako's older brother, right? The one demoned away last year? Unable to respond to that, Mion fell silent. Rena asked the same thing. Why did you start swinging that bat? She told me Satoshi did the same thing, practicing his swings right before he went missing. So, is this some kind of omen of Oroshiro-sama's curse? Mion panicked and looked around. Please, Kei-chan, don't mention Oroshiro-sama so recklessly. I don't believe in him, but the others very much do. Rena especially. Dangerously so. Anyway, you're scaring everyone. If you're just fooling around, then stop it. You have to stop acting like Satoshi. I was the one who was scared. Why do I have to think for taking up this bat in the first place? But it still unsettled me knowing that my actions were overlapping with Satoshi's. It would be one thing if someone suggested it, but I always thought I was making my own decisions. I'll say this now. I don't know anything about Satoshi. After all, you didn't tell me anything about him. We didn't mean to hide it. You were hiding the incidents that happened every year, weren't you? That's because we didn't want to, You didn't want to scare me? That's your reason for leaving me out? No, we didn't mean to! Mion, I asked you directly if something happened at the dam, didn't I? And you told me nothing happened. When someone was dismembered and murdered, you lied to me! I'm sorry! I didn't mean to lie to you. Friends don't hide things from each other, right? Isn't that right? Then you all aren't my friends! Kei-chan, Mion looked helpless and flustered. Was I imagining the tears in her eyes? I couldn't have imagined Mion acting like this. Oh, by the way, the get-well mochis you brought me the other day, they were good. I thought I was going to bleed. Who did it? You or Rena? Me. She admitted it so easily. I couldn't help but be surprised at how easy that was. You could have killed me. How could you do that to a friend? But it was just a little prank. Mion gave me a wry smile mixed with confusion, causing even more anger to well up inside me. You don't think that was a prank? I grabbed Mion by the collar and lifted her up. That wasn't the same as putting Tabasco sauce in a piece of mochi. It was a needle, a sewing needle. If I had swallowed that and it lodged in my throat, what did she think would happen? Mion's face froze as her body rattled in fear. This wasn't the Mion Sonozaki I knew anymore. Anyways, you're not my friend. There's no reason for me to listen to someone who's not my friend. So just leave me alone for a while. Got it? Mion wasn't replying anymore. It won't be that easy to erase me, you know. The cops have been on to you from the start, so don't think you can make me disappear like you did Satoshi. I hit the right key. I said it clearly. This was my declaration of war. I think you guys are suspects in the previous incidents, too. I also know that you spent a lot of time with the cops ever since that anti-dam movement. Don't think you can hide it from me. Got it? How did you know? Mion stood there with a dumbstruck look on her face. That was when I heard the principal ringing the bell for school. It was time for morning homeroom. Let's go. The class representative needs to be there, right? At that moment, for the first time, I realized Mion was sobbing as tears ran down her cheeks. You're so mean, Kei-chan. Me. I wanted to console her, but I shut my mouth. I had no need to feel guilt. I'm going. Don't be late for homeroom. I left Mion, still shaking, as I turned around to head for the entrance. I had no idea how troubling it was to make a girl cry. Behind my back, I could hear her muttering. It was a faint mutter, as she was speaking to herself. So that's how it is. Huh? She wasn't saying it to anyone. It was Mion talking to herself. But it was a sobbing voice, that kind of giddy, cursing tone. And it inadvertently stopped and turned back towards her. So it was that bastard. He licked it all to Kei-chan. She balled up her fists as her tears continued to rain down. She glared at the spot on the ground, with a terrifying yet smiling face, cursing. A chill ran down my spine from that demonic expression. That transformation, Mion's transformation, was different from Mena's. I should have killed him back then. He forgot the mercy I showed him because he was going to retire this year. Retiring this year. Was she talking about Oshi-san? Damn it. I'm gonna kill that damn old man. Felt like the air itself had begun distorting. With Mion at the center, the world had begun to spiral and twist, bending, whirling. This was the first time I had experienced such a visage. Mion's gonna murder. Rise! Attention! Mion made up an excuse for her red eyes by saying there was something wrong with her contacts. After that, neither Rena nor Mion spoke to me for the rest of the day. Neither Satoko nor Rika-chan looked me in the eye. Strangely, I didn't feel hurt. Everything had just went back to the way it was. The month since I transferred in had been almost too much fun. That was all. School was supposed to be something like this to begin with. I should have disliked that feeling, but today it felt oddly refreshing. The bell rung, sounding the end of the monotonous school day, which had felt so tense yet so dull. Since it had caused a lot of unpleasant memories, if they had asked to join in the club activities, I promptly started preparing to go home without even looking at them. I stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag, wrapped my hand around Satoshi's now familiar bat, and began heading toward the entrance. I was assailed by both the exhausting relief that nothing had happened today and the tiring possibility of the same thing repeating tomorrow. But deep down inside me, far beneath in the recesses of my heart, achingly I knew, this would be the last day of this cycle. I couldn't tell how the ending would be, whether it would be the end as I wished it to end, or if it would end as I had hoped it wouldn't. Regardless of my current state, there was something more important than things would end. There was something I wanted to know. Why did I have to be killed? How did it come to this? Why? For what purpose? The sunlight was relentless. The sun, the heat, even the air. They wouldn't give me my answers. Or could it be the cries of the Higurashi were desperately trying to tell me something? Somewhere mixed in their shrieks, Tomotake-san and Satoshi were also probably trying to tell me something. I simply haven't been able to realize it yet. When I do realize it, I wonder if I will be amongst the Higurashi fruitlessly crying to the next victim. Glancing down at my feet, I saw Higurashi in its back, spasming weakly. Wee, wee, wee. There's still much of summer left, yet this one is already chirping its last song. I couldn't tell what it was saying, no matter how hard I listened. But I had to try. I had to try to listen to what it was desperately trying to tell me. At that moment, the shrills of the Higurashi ceased all at once, as if they were huddling together, fearing that the person who had brought them to their dreadful fate had arrived. There was no mistaking it. A presence was approaching. The sound of footsteps was almost non-existent. If the Higurashi hadn't warned me by ending their chirping, I wouldn't have noticed. My exhaustion left me in a heartbeat. In this place was a rush of adrenaline that sharpened all my senses. I was just barely able to hold back that creeping, suffocating feeling of horror. It wasn't something I could hold back for long, but in this moment when I needed to be razor sharp, I was able to retain my composure. I wasn't going to shout like I did yesterday. I hid myself calmly amongst the trees, waiting for my pursuer's shadow. Could I get them to pass by me? No. Since I was able to hear their footsteps, they were probably also able to hear mine. They might have already been able to tell I had hidden myself and was holding my breath. The person tailing me, was it Rena, just like yesterday? If it was Rena, I wouldn't hold back. I could just yell at her and make her go ahead like yesterday. If it wasn't Rena, it would depend on how they acted, I guessed. His footsteps ambled closer, swallowed, wiping my clammy hands on my pants and readjusting the grip on the bat. I could tell the fear that I had beaten back once was now waiting for another opening to come at me. Who could it be? I peeked out from behind the tree at that person following me. It's Rena! My imagination hadn't led me astray. It was Rena. It was a bit of relief when I realized it was someone I knew, but the feeling left me in an instant. This wasn't the same Rena I knew. Her eyes were dark and lifeless, but her mouth appeared as if it was carved into a crescent. Yes, it looked like she was grinning slightly. In her right hand was an axe. I hid myself behind the tree once again and recalled the unbelievable sight I just saw. What was that just now? The embodiment of terror laid bare. Baseball. Practicing my swings, there were a ton of excuses for me to be carrying a bat. But for that axe? There was no excuse for that. An axe just like that.
Keiichi-kun, are you playing hide-and-seek, I wonder?
My heart was pounding, hard enough that I had trouble breathing. What little composure I had been able to hold on to was now crushed. In this place, cold sweat gushed forth, covering my entire body, letting me know precisely what kind of emotion had taken hold. Not good, not good, not good. I wasn't able to hide myself completely. She already knew I was here.
Were you trying to scare me, I wonder?
I decided that it would be best to reveal myself now, since there was still space between us, than to allow Rena to come any closer. I adjusted my grip on that bat again, readied myself mentally, and stepped out from behind the tree.
I found you, Keiichi-kun.
Rena was pleased that she found me, eliciting a mysterious giggle. Her mouth was smiling, but her eyes told me she was displeased by the fact that I had been hiding. Those eyes, they were just so empty. My legs began to quiver. Not good. In the pits of my stomach, some sort of viscous, hot, and cold substance began spreading around. If I allowed it, the substance would slip into my bloodstream and undoubtedly freeze all the organs in my body. Not good, not good. I'll be devoured by Rena at this rate. Strike back! Don't lose! What is it? I blustered, hiding behind my bravado, but Rena didn't flinch one bit.
Just the same as Keiichi-kun. I'm heading home.
Then what about that axe?
Then what about that bat you're holding?
I'm practicing my swing!
Then I'm treasure hunting.
Rena gave a flippant explanation as to why she had such a fearsome weapon. Treasure hunting?
At the treasure mountain, near the dam site, I found a new cute thing. So I needed this to dig it out.
How could I believe that?
You wouldn't believe it, would you?
Rena's laugh was obviously very strange. I had seen Rena's transformation many times before, but the one today was completely different. Like her mischievous tone and the shrewd glint in her eyes. It wasn't something that roundabout. I'm not sure what to say. It was just so obvious.
Wait, Keiichi-kun.
Rena didn't stop walking even as she let out that eerie laugh. Whenever Rena got too close to me, I would scurry away and turn back towards her. This cycle repeated over and over. No matter how you looked at it, I was being chased by Rena and was trying to escape. Don't follow me!
I can't do that. My house is this way after all.
When I met with Rena on this road yesterday, she cowered and trembled as she followed my commands. But today was different. Rena didn't show a hint of trepidation. Actually, wasn't I the one who was cowering? It's the way home for Rena and me was the same. That's fine. I just changed my route. That'd work out, wouldn't it? I turned onto a side street I had never been down and knew little about. But Rena saw me do that and followed me while laughing. Why? Why? Aren't you going home? But just go down the street you normally do. Why would you follow me down this weird little side road? Those thoughts screamed in my head, eventually spilled out of my mouth. Why are you following me? The tone of my voice was already tinged with terror.
Because I want to talk to Keiichi-kun. Keiichi-kun wants to talk to Rena too, doesn't he? Doesn't he?
I don't want to talk about anything with you.
That's a lie, isn't it? There's something you want to ask me about, isn't there?
Not at all. I have nothing to talk to you about.
That's a lie, isn't it?
It's not a lie. Lies! Rena's scream echoed, startling some nearby birds into flight. I cringed in fear. The only other thing I could do was increase my pace.
Let's talk, Keiichi-kun. Talk.
Why was I running down this unfamiliar and deserted street?
Doesn't Keiichi-kun have something he's worried about?
Nothing at all. I'm not worried about anything. Lies! Even though I was running, even though Rena was walking, why wasn't I getting any farther away?
I know. I really do know. You're scared, aren't you, Keiichi-kun?
I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anything. Lies! My breathing grew heavier, and it felt like my legs were giving out from beneath me. And I wasn't even breaking a sweat.
I'll listen. This time I'll listen.
I have no idea what she's talking about, or what exactly she wanted to do.
This time I'll listen.
It'll be different from the time with Satoshi-kun. When she said Satoshi's name, I turned back for a moment. But even as I did, Rena was still advancing. I couldn't afford to stop.
Satoshi-kun was worried too. It looked like he was having such a hard time, but I didn't listen. I was so sad.
When did the street connect to? All these twists and turns, up and downs. It was hard to believe this was even remotely in the direction towards my house. My sense of direction had long since gone out the window.
I really regretted it when Satoshi-kun transferred out. I thought that if I had listened, he may not have transferred out. I really regretted that.
The road led me deeper into the forest. Wasn't I getting farther away from the village the more I ran? I lost more and more of my composure the more I thought about it. But despite this realization, my inner self was still disturbingly calm.
So you see, I vowed if there was someone struggling like Satoshi-kun, I'd save them. I don't want to see anyone transfer out again.
Damn it! What does transfer even mean? I won't let you transfer me. I won't end up the same as Satoshi.
Come on, Keiichi-kun, talk to me. I'll be able to understand you, Keiichi-kun. I'm your ally.
I started wheezing, out of breath. My lungs were so hot that it felt like they were about to explode. And my heart was beating as hard as it possibly could. I should have practiced running instead of my swing. I couldn't even afford to scoff at that stupid thought.
If Keiichi-kun doesn't have anything to worry about, he'll go back to normal. Everyone will go back to being friends and we can enjoy club activities again. Next time we'll team up and beat Mii-chan.
Yeah, how fun would that be? Reno couldn't even imagine how much I'd wished that we could go back to the clock to those past few days.
It'd be nice to me again, too. I want to go searching for treasure again. This time I'll prepare a nice lunch. Actually, we could just go right now. Let's go to the dam site together. I'll show you that cute thing I just found. I'm sure you'll like it too.
My footsteps made pathetic flapping sounds as my legs wobbled and faltered. Hot on my heels, Rena's steps were sharply breaking twigs underfoot. I had to accept it. I was on the run, being chased by Rena. If she caught me, it was all over. I realized it instinctively. I couldn't even begin to think about what the end would entail. Just that if I was caught, it was all over. That's all I knew. It didn't matter how it was going to end. I wouldn't let it end. Not without knowing anything. Not yet. That momentary lapse was all it took. Of all the things that could have happened, my knees buckled beneath me and I crumbled to the ground. I tried to stand frantically, urging my legs to respond. I used my bat as a makeshift cane to prop myself up, but Rena was already standing right in front of me. Compared to me, out of breath and utterly exhausted, Rena was so cool and composed that she could have frozen the air around her. She wasn't breathing hard at all. Rather, I couldn't even sense if her heart was beating.
Are you afraid of something, I wonder? It's nothing like you to tremble, Keiichi-kun.
Her expression looked almost affectionate. Those soulless eyes, that mask of affection. As she admonished me for trembling, Rena's hands deftly slipped over her head. The blur of arms moved, made me feel as if I was standing at the godliness of the thousand-armed Buddha. Then as both hands met above her head, that axe she held came into focus. I stared up at it in disbelief. It's all I could do. Tell me, what happened to Satoshi? Rena stayed like that, with the axe raised above her head, solemnly opened her mouth, as if she was expressing a farewell to a friend she'd never see again. The cruel scenario resided somewhere in her actions. I told you. Satoshi-kun transferred out. Enough of that transferred crap. It means demoned away, doesn't it? Doesn't it? You can tell me now, can't you? Who made Satoshi disappear? Was it you, Mion, or someone in the village? Answer me! I became frantic the more I screamed, but Rena did nothing but maintain the smile frozen on her face. I have no idea what Keiichi-kun is talking about. Then I say it in the way so you do. Who is the perpetrator of this chain of mysterious deaths? You seem to be confused, Keiichi-kun. Oh, there is no human perpetrator. Everything is by Oshiro-sama's will. Isn't Oshiro-sama's curse just superstition? You believe in that too? It's not about believing or not. Oshiro-sama exists. Period. Rena's gaze grew even more gilded. The ferocity in her stare was so intense, nothing allowed me to question anything. There's just no way something like Oshiro-sama could exist. You don't believe in Oshiro-sama? There's no way I could believe it. There's no way it could exist! It exists. Oshiro-sama exists. Keiichi-kun should have felt it personally. I never felt something like that. Keiichi-kun, haven't you felt someone apologizing to you before? Consistently on top of that. All noise from the outside world disappeared. Only Rena's voice resounded, loud and terribly. You see, until you forgive them, they'll always be with you. At school, at home, at your bedside. I couldn't understand what Rena was saying. It came to me too. Oroshiro-sama did. That's why I transferred and came back to Hinamizawa. I didn't understand. I don't understand. What does transfer even mean? What was Rena saying? Hasn't Oroshiro-sama come to you as well, Keiichi-kun? I'm probably the only one you can confide in. I won't let you transfer out, okay? Rena's demented laughter clanged around inside my head. Was Rena saying Oshiro-sama came to her as well? That's right. Last night I heard about that when I asked about Rena. Please, keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? Oshi-san began speaking. None of the victims nor the school filed a complaint, so there's no preliminary report. Basically, the police hadn't intervened in this matter. So all these details are just what I heard through those involved, meaning it's not that credible. You said that there were victims. Didn't Rena just break all the windows? No, Rena Ryugu had attacked 3 boys, using a metal bat. 2 of them made it out with only bruises, but one had been injured so badly that one of his eyes were permanently damaged. Wouldn't that be considered assault? Shouldn't the police have arrested her? For whatever reason, the victim never pressed charges. There was no report to police, so they were beaten with a bat and suffered significant injuries. Normally that would be criminal investigation, but why didn't they press charges? I tried asking the 3 males for their side of the story, but all were reluctant. It's hard to say, but they were all afraid, even after she had transferred schools. Oshi-san, could you summarize it starting with the beginning? Rena hit people while she broke the windows? Or was it she started breaking the windows after she got bored of hitting people? That sounded similar, but the meanings were drastically different. On an undisclosed date, Rena Ryugu was conversing with 3 male students, close friends of hers, near the pool storage shed. Who were those 3? I can't reveal their names, but they were close to Rena Ryugu and seemed they were a group of friends. She was the lone girl in their group, so it wasn't that strange that the 4 of them were together. So what happened? I don't know the reason why. She took the baseball team's bat that was in the pool storage shed and beat the 3 of them down one after the other. What? There were no witnesses. These were the accounts pieced together by the information given at the time of the incident. One day after school, Rena and the 3 male students were at the pool storage shed talking together. They weren't seeking help, rather they usually met up there. It appears it began a heated discussion. At that time, Rena went underwent a change. The change was so abrupt that the three of them didn't comprehend what was happening. Then, taking the metal bat, she attacked her friends one after the other. Leaving her friends covered in blood with gashes on their heads, she made her way towards the school building. Then she broke the glass windows one after the other. A few minutes later, a teacher appeared on the scene and subdued her. What was this change Rena underwent? What matches up the statements from the three was a sudden change, the point where there was a transformation. Transformation. I also could recall Rena's transformation. I had seen that change many times before. It was so different from the usual Rena that I couldn't help but believe it was someone else who looked like Rena. That transformation they're talking about, had it happened before? No, there was nothing like that. As far as I could find out in her medical history and past, there was nothing like that. Does that happen often? Where people change suddenly like Rena did? Of course it does. There are plenty of psychological phenomena that would cause something like that. Then you're saying there's a dormant element in Rena that caused that transformation? Can't say that for certain. But, according to the statements of her friends, it's hard to believe that she had such a side to her. Kind, caring, and adorable. Even before she transferred here, she was probably pretty popular in the school she was in now, like she was now. That girl transforming suddenly and assaulting them with a bat. Who could imagine such a thing? Nobody could have seen it coming. I myself sometimes believe that I was mistaken in thinking it was Rena, even now. Then what happened after that? There was a hospital right across from the school, so the three of them were carried in and treated quickly. What about Rena? What about the police? Why wasn't there a criminal investigation? See, the police couldn't get involved unless they were called. Even though one was badly injured with permanent damage? Why didn't they file the charges? That's what caught my attention as well. Either some threat or pressure was placed on them, or they had a reason that they couldn't file charges even if they wanted to. We're talking about you, after all. Of course you would look into it, didn't you? Well, yeah, but I told you at the beginning, didn't I? That the victims were all very reluctant to talk. They didn't want to touch on the matter, or rather, they didn't want to be involved. Reluctant to talk. Didn't want to touch it. Didn't want to be involved. It resembled the villagers here in Oshiro-sama's curse. Didn't the teacher at the school tell you anything? A school is hallowed ground. You can say they tend to keep scandals under wraps. I didn't have a search warrant, so I had to tread lightly, you see. Then there was no comment from the school? No. They denied the incident even happened. It's just 3 male students were carried in from blunt force trauma that day. That's all there was in the hospital records. The victims didn't speak, the school denied it happened. Then you don't know anything at all. Yeah. I know nothing other than the incident itself had taken place. The victims also wished this incident to be kept from the public. So if you and I both forget about it, Maibara-san, then this incident will probably just fade away. For a brief period, we sat in silence. At first glance, it looked like a simple assault case. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. The depths were obscured by roiling waves, sinking quietly into the void, as if never existing to begin with. After that, she was suspended by the school. And during that time, she underwent psychiatric counseling. Did you hear anything from that doctor? Again, they were very professional in regards to their ethics, or at least very tight-lipped. Nothing even after you showed them your badge? I was told to get a warrant. The badge itself has no legal binding authority, after all. And how did you know that Rena confessed it was Otoshiro-sama who did it? There was a nurse I asked in that department. She agreed to help me just from showing her my badge. Then, what did she say? Turns out the nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently, all that she remembered was that she overheard from inside the room. The nurse said that at the time, Rena Ryugu was very calm and mild-mannered. It was more like she was confessing her sins at church than a counseling session. She spoke with her mother there I'm pretty sure that's some mistranslation there. For some of it should be what it is. But partway through, her mother was asked to leave, so it became a private counseling session between her, just the doctor, and Rena for a while. The part with Otoshiro-sama, when did that pop up? Partway through. She screamed the name suddenly. That startled the nurse, and that's why she started listening in. It was Otoshiro-sama! Rena suddenly shouted that. I had no idea what was said before that, so I had no idea the meaning behind it could have been. The doctor calmly and collectedly asked Rena to have a seat. What is this Otoshiro-sama you spoke of? Gently, ever so gently. The fundamentals of counseling was believed what you were told. Whoever abandons Hinamizawa will be hunted down by Otoshiro-sama. And they finally got into me. That's the town you lived in before you moved here. Isn't that right, Ryugu-san?
I didn't want to move, but because of my mom and my dad's circumstances, we had to, but Hotoshiro-sama wouldn't allow it.
Ryugu-san must have had a lot of friends in Hinamizawa. Even now you must be missing them dearly, don't you think?
I want to go back.
I need to stop right-clicking. That's what I need to do.
Back to Hinamizawa. No, it's not that I want to go back. I have to go back. I shouldn't have gone back much sooner, but now it's too late. Otoshiro-sama has come.
Otoshiro-sama is the name of the god in Hinamizawa, isn't that right?
Everyone knows it's Hinamizawa's guardian deity, and if you ever try abandoning Hinamizawa by leaving, you'll incur his wrath.
You had moved quite a while ago, didn't you? Then it was just now that this god has arrived. Is that what you're saying?
You might not believe me, but Otoshiro-sama exists.
That nurse was then asked by another nurse to do something and left the room. That was all she remembered. That it was all Otoshiro-sama's doing, right? I do believe that it was the kind of superstition in Hinamizawa, that if you leave the village, then you incur Otoshiro-sama's wrath. You should be familiar with this part, Marubara-san. I knew very well that those scorned by the village incurred. To hinder the dam construction project, they cursed the construction foreman to his death, and in the following years, Sadako's parents, supporters, and leading advocates for the dam were cursed to their death. But this was the first time I had heard the curse incurring by leaving the village. This is my first time hearing that. I can understand outside threats being cursed by the village, but why were also villagers who leave? Normally people who leave villages aren't supposed to be cursed, right? I know it's a bit strange to say it, but I could see it as a rule that the people who come in are the ones who would be cursed. Far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. Curses weren't something to chase after people that leave, were they? Oshi-san pondered a bit over on the other end of the receiver and began speaking again. Well, I told you a long time ago that Hinamizawa was called Onikakushi, didn't I? I recalled hearing that. Long ago, Hinamizawa was feared and respected as the village of ogres. Or village of yokai! The villagers at the foot of the mountains worshipped the ogres. I got it, though. Shit, fuck! There we go. So Onikakushi was hallowed ground that you could never enter. It came to be said that if you entered carelessly, you were cursed by Otoshiro-sama. Those who set foot in Onikakushi, in other words, Hinamizawa, would be cursed. I could understand that. I know that. But for leaving to also be no good, that's also the ogres you see. They were being strictly watched by Otoshiro-sama so that they would not enter into our world. In other words, Otoshiro-sama probably restricted interaction between Onikakushi and the rest of the world. I see. I finally understood what sort of thing Otoshiro-sama was. So basically, Otoshiro-sama is more like a warden than a protectorate deity, I guess, trying to keep this place isolated from the rest of the world. I guess that's how it would seem. I'm sorry, I don't know very much myself. This is mostly what was passed on to me from my grandmother. I could understand it a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Hinamizawa would be cursed, but those who tried to leave would also be cursed. So because Rena originally lived in Hinamizawa and moved away, she fulfilled the requirements of being cursed. So that means because Rena moved away, against its wishes, she was cursed by Otoshiro-sama. Is that what it adds up to? In short, it seems that what it points to, I guess. As a matter of fact, soon afterwards they did move back to Hinamizawa after all. Those who abandoned Hinamizawa and left were cursed. But then, why only Rena? Shouldn't Rena's parents also have been guilty of the same transgression by moving away and having been cursed? Also, in this day and age in Japan, shouldn't there be a lot of people coming and going? And if every single one of them were cursed, then it'd be insane. But in reality, it wasn't that big of a deal at all. At most, it'd be one person dying and one person disappearing on the day of the Watanagashi. I didn't like saying at most, though. Well, anyways, there's a lot I still don't know. Even if it was Onoshiro-sama's curse, it doesn't add up to why her classmates, the victims who were beaten with a metal bat, wouldn't press charges. You don't think the victims were cowering because they believed that a terrible curse had befallen them, do you? Of course, I didn't want to believe it. But more importantly, I had just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection that Rena made between Otoshiro-sama's curse and metal bats. Satoshi fell victim to Otoshiro-sama's curse and went missing. I had recently learned that Satoshi had also become infatuated with the metal bat right before he disappeared, just like me. Then Rena as well. She was afflicted by Otoshiro-sama's curse, and she confessed that much to the doctor. And the weapon which she used at the time when the horrendous act was again a metal bat. And finally me. I had encountered various things that were inexplicable, and now I was holding on to a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. It couldn't be. The same thing happened to Rena. But there was one critical difference between her and Satoshi's case. That being, Satoshi went missing after falling victim to the curse. But Rena was still here. Both of them had fallen victim to Oshiro-sama's curse, and yet they were met with different endings. And finally me. I couldn't call it a coincidence anymore. Rena, Satoshi, and finally me. Could it be that I really was under Oshiro-sama's curse right now? No, more importantly than that, what should I do now? Satoshi had been demon away, vanishing without a trace. Rena was fine. Fine? Rena had undergone a change. I could only believe that there was something that wasn't Rena residing within her. And here, right now, it was standing before me. Oh yeah, can we go back to the moment that she's currently standing in front of me, holding the axe, ready to kill me? Rena, please tell me, what will happen to me? Rena stood imposing, not answering. Satoshi disappeared. But Rena didn't disappear. So what will happen to me? I never heard such an unpleasant laugh before. It had become akin to the sound of her breathing. It was no longer a voice or expression of feeling.
Don't worry. I'll save you.
Rena took one step forward, still holding the axe high above her head. Now then. One step closer, Rena's face spread out to fill my vision. Speak. Shiro-sama. One step closer. Rena's nose was close enough to touch mine and was still pushing closer.
There's something you want to say, isn't there? I'll listen. I'll save you, okay? Speak, okay? Speak, okay?
I slumped down, landing squarely on my butt. It wasn't for some pathetic reason. It was all I could do to get as far away from Rena. I had the gut feeling that I couldn't let her laughing end. Because when the laughing ended, the moment I picked up on that feeling, my body moved by instinct. I sprang to my feet so fast I couldn't believe it and pushed Rena away with both hands. Rena was light as a feather. Thrown about by the unbalanced weight of the axe, she set backwards as if she had been carried off by the wind. After converting that out of the corner of my eye, I dashed off at full speed. I was the perfect picture of fleeing like a greased pig. Get away from Rena. Run away. Survive. I couldn't think of anything other than this. While I was running, I remembered that I had been holding onto the bat the entire time. Such a worthless weapon. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten about this weapon at such an important time. I sped even further down the winding path. I couldn't even feel myself gasping for breath or my legs giving heady. My body understood as well. If I didn't run away from here, I wouldn't live. I could hear the laughter of that God! It's like reading the Bulgarian and not knowing what words they are. Simulacrum? God, I hope that's the word. Of Rena coming from behind me. It rang through the trees and in my head, and slowly chiseled away at my sanity. The grove of the trees thinned out, my field of vision suddenly expanding. Where was this? For a moment I was bewildered by the scenery I felt I knew, but couldn't quite remember. I quickly realized, this was the damn site. The fact that I dashed madly and ended up in a place like this gave me a bad feeling, like I was following someone's scripted plot. I had a good view of surroundings, but I didn't see a single soul here. This is a terrible spot for someone on the run, but there's no better place for an attacker. My heart was already on the verge of bursting. The muscles in my legs were screaming, but I didn't care. If I stopped here, then they might not even be able to scream for much longer. Even still glancing back, looking for an excuse to rest, but I wasn't there. Instead, I saw two villagers walking around. I breathed a sigh of relief that it wasn't Rena, but a third party. Except the voice inside me rang the alarm once again. Villagers walking around were suspicious in of themselves, but it bothered me. They both wore rough-looking clothes, and behind, they definitely gave the impression that they're just out for a walk. But at this time of day, two adults wandering around without a purpose was enough to raise questions. More than anything else, those eyes. They weren't chit-chatting while walking. They were both silent, heading forward, looking in my direction. Was I at the end of my rope and finally started imagining things? I should run away. This was probably the best choice. If they weren't involved, I'd lose them easily by running. If they were part of the group after me, then they'd come running after me. Either way, unless I hurried up, Rena would catch up with me. That's right, I was going to run. Deciding that the moment I began to turn tail, both of them rushed towards me, as if they knew exactly what I was thinking. Somewhere inside me, I jumped to the conclusion that Rena was the only thing I needed to be afraid of. I made the assumption that I didn't need to fear anything else. But right now I realized just how blatantly wrong I was. Suddenly the story Oshi-san told me about the demons all leaving the village to hunt prey floated back in the back of my mind. I could tell that they were both coming after me without even turning around because of their frenetic footsteps. It was frightening. Being unable to shake Rena off as she slowly closed in on me, but it didn't even compare. Being pursued with such violent ferocity, the straightforward horror was unparalleled. One of the pursuers' arms grazed my shoulder. Now it wasn't just their frenzied footsteps, but also the distinct sound of their breathing that I could hear. No, I could practically feel their breathing on me. They were already right behind me. Calm down, Keiichi Marabata. Still running at full tilt, I felt the surrounding area go still. No, it felt like time itself had stopped. I turned my head back slightly in this frozen world, realizing how close my pursuers had got to me. I couldn't win against the legs of an adult. In less than the time it would take to blink twice, when this frozen world began moving again, they'd be right on top of me. And then... Don't think about it, Keiichi. First, realize that you won't be able to shake them off like this. If the fact that you can't get away from them is a given, then you need to make a decision. Go with the right leg or go with the left. You need to decide which one. Go with the left. Let's go with the left. The moment I decided that, the temporal singularity burst into pieces. Right. Left. I swung the bat in a wide arc with my right arm, using that inertia, and stopped and suddenly spun. What? The two of them were clearly startled. Momentarily losing sight of me, both of their outstretched hands ready to grab me instead grasped at empty space. The man on the right, I applaud him for being able to figure it out, spun around on the spot I shouldn't have been, and faced me in astonishment. But it was too late. I didn't even need to swing my bat. All I needed was to extend my arms as I turned around. It was by no means a heavy blow, but it seemed like it was enough power to knock him off his feet. But just knocking him down was enough to scare him away. He got back up in no time. Both of them took a fighting stance and were ready to face me. This made me certain that they weren't just two people out for a walk. They were clearly after me. But it felt much easier than dealing with Rena. Just by not recognizing their faces, by not knowing them, it made things easier. I smiled royally on the inside. What do you want with me? Next one's going to be right in your face, you bastard! It's fine if it was just a bluff. By barking that out at them, I was able to fire myself up. They didn't respond. They spread out to the either side of me with unbelievably calm expressions on their face. One of them would grab onto my bat and the other would hold me down. Was that their plan? Taking on both of them at once would be impossible. Hot sweat poured from every pore on my body. Then I just had to settle it with the first move. I stepped in and struck the first one down. Narrowing my target down to the man on the right who has already been knocked down before, I stepped in and swung with all my might. There was no way for an unarmed person to guard against it. This would cause immense damage. If they blocked it with their arm, the bone would snap like a twig. Or if they turned their back to it, it's possible the blow would travel all the way to their vital organs. It looked like he was aware of this. He pushed farther through the kill zone between us and delivered a fist right into my gut. Not good. But this distance, in this position, and in this state, there was no way for me to dodge it. The world flipped upside down. I understood that I was being tossed around like a rag doll. I landed on soft earth without a sound, feeling the grainy soil pressed against my face. It didn't hurt at all. But the moment I thought that, I suddenly felt pain coming from the abrasions on my skin, as well as the contents of my stomach being forced upwards, flooding my mouth with bitter sensation. I knew very well that I didn't have time to relish this experience. I stood up as quickly as I could, but at that moment the other man was already barreling towards me. Being able to comprehend calmly that I simply couldn't dodge it made it all the more upsetting. After plowing into my stomach full force once again, my assailant twisted around behind me and locked his thick arm around my neck. My throat felt like it was being crushed by his immense strength. I couldn't even contemplate that I was being strangled, or that I was about to go unconscious. My vision simply darkened, and a silent whining noise began playing deep inside my mind. It took everything I had to keep myself from blacking out. While this was happening, the other man was more than likely standing in front of me. I wasn't able to open my eyes, but I could feel that he was there. There was nothing I could do now. Unable to shake his arm off me, I couldn't run. I couldn't fight back. Dire straits. I couldn't even come up with the phrase that adequately described my situation. I'm in my room. A familiar ceiling. The smell of the bed and pillows. I knew them well. Was this my room? Normally, there wouldn't be anyone in my room besides me, but their presence made me spring wide awake. When I did that, pain shot through my entire body.
Feeling alright? I think you'd be better just lie down for a bit.
Why was Rena in my room? Blood began to surge through my muscles and my capillaries, but Rena's smile belonged to the Rena I knew well. I knew I shouldn't let myself feel this way, but I relaxed, thinking that this version of Rena was safe. Why am I... Don't you remember? After losing consciousness, nothing at all. My body had become more lethargic than I could have even imagined. I guess it would be expected outcome after exerting everything I had back there. I had to at least clear my head, but I just couldn't shake the sluggish feeling out of my mind.
I called the doctor. He should be here soon. I think you'd better just lie down until then.
I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor, but knowing that someone impartial was coming was slightly reassuring. Why am I here? I'm sure I was at the dam site.
That's what I want to know. What happened? When I got there, Keiichi-kun was already passed out.
That's why I'm the one who wants to know. I was attacked by two weirdos. As I was talked about, I finally remembered what had happened right before I passed out. Recalling that memory and the terror that went along with that caused the fogginess around my head to clear right up. Let's forget about those two for a moment. I didn't expect Rena to be nursing me. I thought Rena was trying to kill me. She would have had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. Not only did she not kill me, she nursed me back to health. Amazing you could drag me all the way back here. Wasn't I heavy? Looking at Rena's delicate form, it was hard to believe that she would not gotten me back home, but even dragged me all the way up to the second floor. Did she have some help?
Don't you remember, Keiichi-kun?
Rena appeared a bit surprised, but still kept her smile.
I only propped you up on my shoulder. You said you could walk on your own, and that you were fine. You don't remember?
I didn't remember. My memory is fuzzy after the point where I lost consciousness. What about those two?
Huh?
When you got there, Rena. The ones with me, or rather those two guys.
There wasn't anyone.
She said it bluntly. The way she stated it felt slightly unpleasant. I was just too timid at that time. I might have been able to force some answer out of Rena, but if I did that, then this kind Rena would be transformed in that scary Rena I didn't know. Fearing that, I didn't press any further. Thinking about it, it was the obvious choice. If both of those men were there, I don't think Rena would have even stood a chance. I couldn't find a way to explain it unless I assumed she brought me here after those two men were already gone. Rena was still smiling. Her eyes sparkled warmly. Yet, I felt like I was hallucinating when I saw something. Something akin to a shadow slowly creeping across her face. That small omen sent shivers down my spine. While Rena was still Rena, I needed to make contact. I needed to contact Oshi-san. Rena stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. She said it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep. I'd like to go to the bathroom, though.
Sorry.
Rena couldn't say anything else. While Rena stayed in the room, I quickly went downstairs to the phone receiver in the living room. When I approached the front door, the doorbell rang ding-dong. It must have been the doctor Rena had called. It was strange for a patient to welcome in the doctor who was making a house call, but it'd be incredibly reassuring to have him here for the considerable time that it would take Oshi-san to get here. I carelessly opened the door with a simple assumption, and regretted it almost immediately. Mion? Oh, you look just fine. I heard you collapsed, so I came to check up on you. How did you know I collapsed? I heard from Rena over the phone. Do I need any other reason other than that? I understood why she would call a doctor. But why Mion too? Rena was descending the stairs behind me. Rena, doesn't Kei-chan look pretty alright? She made me worry for nothing.
That's true. Maybe I was worried for nothing as well.
They both began laughing. It appeared to be cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a darkness looming over them. Whoa, what's with the shoe rack? How'd it get like this? The shoe rack that I'd smashed to pieces had been like that since yesterday. I fell, you see, and the bat I was holding at the time slammed into it. This is what happens when you swing around something you're not used to handling. I kept the fact that it was none of her business to myself.
But leaving it like this will really startle your parents when they get home. I'll fix it up for you later.
Now come on, Kei-chan. The terminal ill need their rest. Come, back to bed. Both of them urged me up the stairs. I had no chance to call Oshi-san. I was pushed into my bed. As if it was the first time Mion had been in my room, she began searching around intently. She fiddled around my room and was scolded by Rena. You can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked around, but the conversation was so benign that it was heartwarming. During that innocent conversation, Mion said something as though it was perfectly ordinary. Rena, did you call the manager?
Yep. Right after I called Michan. He said he'd be right over.
Manager? That out-of-place word gave me a bad feeling. Rena called a doctor, then called me on, and after that she called a manager? Who is this manager? Since Rena and Mion's conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd. What are you two talking about? Who is this manager?
Didn't you know, Kei-chan? We mean the manager when we say manager. Like the director of a movie. Or like a foreman of a construction site.
I dug through all my memories for a manager who might have had business with me. Only one thing came to mind. When Rena had just said, a construction site foreman? The very first victim of the first incident. The dismemberment at the damn construction site. The foreman. But that was strange. He was supposed to be dead. There was no way they could call him. I don't understand what you guys are talking about. What does the manager have to do with me? You said he was coming. Did you mean to my house? I asked one obvious question after another, but all the two of them did was smile coolly at each other. There was a huge difference between how the two of them appeared and how my suspicions were playing out. Slowly I felt discomfort and pain welling up inside me. I couldn't understand what Rena and Mion were talking about.
Kei-chan, you got into baseball lately, haven't you? Pretty sure the manager will be happy to hear that.
So who's this manager?
The manager is the manager.
So who is this manager? Rena and Mion looked at each other and laughed haughtily. This disturbing cackle unpleasantly sounded around me. That laugh, loud enough to be unsettling, ended abruptly.
Oh yeah, we should finish up before the manager comes. You remember, don't you, Kei-chan?
Her face was laughing, but Mion's eyes told a different story. Remember what?
Keiichi-kun, had he forgotten, I wonder, about the penalty?
Did you really forget? The homework with the mochi? The homework, where you were supposed to guess which one Rena made? You forgot about that homework, didn't you? I certainly did have that homework, but I had thrown away the rest of the mochi after I found that sewing needle, so I wasn't able to answer which one Rena made. The penalty, for what? Why now? No doubt my question was written all over my face. Their answer to my question was only that dry laughter. I gotta stop hitting the right! I could no longer make heads or tails or anything. I began thinking this entire day was somehow insane, strange, incomprehensible. Being chased down by Rena, attacked by strange men, the penalty Mion and Rena were talking about. What were these two laughing at? It didn't take that long for me to realize I had been dragged into an abnormal situation. Who were these two? Who were these people? Who were these doppelgangers of Rena and Mion? Rena had gotten behind me at some point. Why was she pinning my arms behind my back? What are you doing?
Don't move. This is your penalty.
My body was already very sluggish, and Rena pinning my arms made it that much harder to move. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakish, monstrous strength had to be impossible for the Rena I knew. These thin, frail arms grasping me firmly. Whose arms were they?
Kei-chan, no struggling. Club rules. There are no exceptions. You can't fight against the penalty.
Mion. No, that thing that looked like Mion spoke to me like how Mion would speak to me. But I was certain this was not Mion. Someone who wasn't Mion. Someone who was just pretending to be Mion.
Need to finish this up before the manager comes.
Mion fished into her pockets and pulled out something bizarre. I could tell what it was just by looking at it. For such a thing to be in her pocket, my mind wouldn't accept. What is that? It was a small syringe. It was a small, clear syringe, like what a doctor would use when you went to him when you were sick. Rena held me even tighter, and I could hear the chattering laughter that no longer sounded like laughter blaring into my ears. That eerie laughter. It wasn't something that the Rena I knew could even produce from her own throat. This thing that was pretending to be Rena, was this their real laughter? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion was holding drew closer. and that needle tip was wavering in front of my face countless times. Don't worry, don't worry. It won't hurt, it won't hurt! What are you planning on doing? What kind of sick joke is this? What are you saying, Kei-chan? You know exactly what's going on, don't you? About what? I don't understand any of this at all! I know you know. I know you're just playing the fool this late in the game. Stop talking nonsense and try to confuse me! You're going to have to be done to you what's happened to Tomatake-san. What? The same as Tomatake-san? I didn't really understand what she meant. What did it have to do with the syringe? You're playing dumb, Keiichi-kun. You should have realized it by now. Rena whispered into my ear, laughing as if to admonish me. But even the way she spoke was repulsive beyond compare. Playing dumb? Me? About what? What do you mean the same as Tomatake-san? Everyone thought at first that it was a hit and run. Except when the officer got closer to check if he was still alive, he soon noticed that it wasn't a normal situation. His throat was scratched out. From a knife or something? No. Nails. Nails? Nails as in fingernails? With those gouged through? That's right. Tomatake-san had clawed out his own throat with his own nails and died. There's no way someone could die like that. So then, for that to happen, we thought drugs were to blame, but nothing of that nature was detected. That's right. The police didn't find any drugs in Tomatake-san's system. The police told me they didn't find any drugs in Tomatake-san's body. The two of them laughed together with that sickening laughter. Of course they'd laughed. To assume that such a medicine didn't exist just because the police didn't know about it was completely foolish. Meaning the drug that caused Tomatake-san to die in such a bizarre manner did exist. If Mion injected this with me, then that would probably be all the proof I needed. It would basically mean I'd end up the same as Tomatake-san. Become hysterical, scratching out my own throat in his last moments, then die. For such an outrageous drug to exist. For Mion to be holding it. That I was about to be injected with it. At that moment I didn't feel there was any need whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball flying straight at his face, had time to think of a reason about why it's flying at him? Just give up. All right then. Mion's actions lacked any gravitas, and it made it even more terrifying. There was no more ceremony like when someone was sentenced to death. There was no hesitation at all, as if she were brushing her teeth. Mion reached out with one hand and grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had run through the back of my head, and the entire world had gone dark. Did I stand up too fast? Or did something hit me really hard in the back of the head? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. We're almost done! So close! I can feel the blood rushing to my head. Oh! I squatted down for a bit. When I came back to my senses, my entire room had changed drastically. The numbness in my head was gone, and slowly I could tell blood was flowing to my extremities again. How long had I been squatting here? How many minutes? Or had it been hours? It was almost as if the hands on the clock had stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how little time passed. Really? The air in the room wasn't filled with that madness from before, only a dull silence. Rena wasn't there, pinning my arms, and Mion wasn't there about to inject me with a needle. No way. Could it be? All of it was an hallucination. There was no other presence in the room besides my own. It was that weird experience I had ever had. I was certainly with Rena and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some sort of comfort. I guess that terrible ordeal was a hallucination. Neither Rena nor Mion, they wouldn't ever do something so terrible. My head grew hot. I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That was a reason to cry. Why? It was sorrow. Why was I sad? I don't understand. Kind to everyone, not discriminating against age or gender. Mion. That Mion was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her a deep red from her head down to her chest. The bright crimson smeared on the walls that splattered had undoubtedly come from Mion. She always had that bright smile and was kind to me from the day I transferred. Rena. That same Rena was slumped at my feet and was making the same pool of blood as Mion. I couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did someone come to save me? Then they beat these two down? With this metal bat? I finally noticed the weight in my right hand. How long had it been there? It was Satoshi's metal bat. It was covered in deep red. There was no doubt this was the weapon used to mutilate both of them. I was holding that weapon. I was the only person in the house. What? Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it. I did this? That's right. Keiichi Marabara. Of course I did it. I told myself gently, as if coaxing myself. Hey, me? There's no reason for you to remember it, nor is there any need to regret it. Eat or be eaten. You get that, don't you? But the blood. The blood. There's so much. Neither Rena nor Mion had moved an inch. It was just a split forehead and a trickle of blood, nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red, and that told me it didn't end with just 2 or 3 strikes. Were they dead? Both of them? The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicking and agitated. Calm down, Keiichi Marabara. What happened to your usual calm self? Come on now. Do you like you always do. Throw your head back and take a deep breath. Come on now. Once, twice. Breathe deeply. Calm down. Calm down. I chanted that over and over in my head and relaxed. Color came back to my visions and smell reinfused the air. At the same time, I remembered what happened when I blacked out. Rena and Mion had attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same symptoms as Tomitake-san. But right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my whole body and threw Rena as she was pinning my arms. And I followed through with my spin and ran my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. Rena tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of having them off balance slip by. Satoshi's bat was left carelessly by the side of my desk. Beep. At that moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in the videotape in my mind. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't that there was nothing recorded. It was recorded just fine. Just the other me inside myself had told me not to look, and it turned off the TV. Just because the screen had gone black and I couldn't see it didn't mean the videotape within me hadn't recorded it. The TV was just off. The video was still playing. The tape within me, creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch-black screen, that horrifying video was still playing on. Compared to this, though, the scene right before my eyes, was still so difficult to take in. There was blood splattered everywhere on the walls, and the 2 of them were in these unnatural poses. No sign of movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing. No matter what the circumstances were, my friends, these girls, I had attacked them. I may have even killed them. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been the one done for. Balancing that out on an imaginary scale, it felt odd that I'd even feel bad about it. Even if it was a bit of excessive. It was justifiably self-defense. The proof was all here. The 2 of them collapsed here, Mion's syringe. Mion's syringe filled with some unknown drug, would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tomitake-san. And from the fact that both of these 2 were involved, they'd be able to pick out the criminals, one after the other. Still, I might be suspected for this, but that was just fine. Anyway, now this should be the police affair. This wouldn't fade into the darkness like Rena's past incidents. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this to a close. They'd probably revisit their investigation on the chain of incidents. Oshi-san would definitely get to the bottom of it. Meaning my wish of not wanting to die, of wanting to know the truth that would be fulfilled in its most basic form. It was all a matter of time now. The doctor Rena called should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. I need to contact Oshi-san. At that moment, I remembered. Besides the doctor, a manager had been called. It's easy to imagine there was someone deeply involved in the incidents, judging from Rena and Mion's conversation. The ache in my chest, caused by the gruesome deed I had done, dissipated rapidly. This was not over yet. This place was no longer safe. Stay calm, Keiichi Maribara. It's not over yet. I needed to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment, I felt like I heard someone's voice from outside. Since people were speaking, it meant that there were more than one person. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. About 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. They very much resembled the 2 men who had assaulted me at the dam site today. Those 2 might even be among them. There was one person wearing a white coat, but he didn't look like a doctor at all. My gut told me he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. That guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door, pretend to be a doctor to get me to open the door, and the rest of them would rush in at once. At that moment, I saw the car parked behind the men, and my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van! No mistaking it. The van, the one that had tried to run me down. The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed toward the front door. The rest of the men hid in the bushes and watched him. I probably couldn't pretend that I wasn't home. Undoubtedly, they'd just break the window and enter. I needed to get out of here somehow. Then use a public phone to contact Oshi-san. Then meet up somewhere. First of all, I needed a weapon. Then shoes. But before any of that, there was one thing I had to do. I had no intention of dying. I'd live and reveal the truth of this nonsensical curse of Oshiro-sama. But what would happen from here on, regardless how determined I was, may bring about my demise. And that was why. There was one more important than getting out of here right now. I needed to get that clock out quickly and take down the note hidden behind it. Damn it! The tape was sticking to it fast. It'd be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slight torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. If I wasn't able to inform Oshi-san, then the only thing I could do was lay an eye on this note. I'd never thought of a piece of torn, college-ruled notebook paper would be this reliable before. I had no time. I'd only write what I knew right now. I needed to leave some sort of information that would lead them to uncover the truth. Rena and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. That was an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it, but it was a fact. Anyway, I'd leave all the information that would help lead them to finding the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This was everything I was able to see from the window. There may be more. But that was an undefinable person known as the manager. To begin with, the term manager didn't even mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the managers from past incidents, then the only one in the construction foreman, the victim of the first murder, the very first victim in the chain of incidents. Killed in a lynching, his body divided into 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Rena and Mion both called him manager. They said manager. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who was dead. The police would never even conceive that someone who was deceased could be involved. Could that be some sort of oversight? I didn't know. But even if I didn't know, it could be a big hint for Oshi-san. That's right. They needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of the string of mysterious deaths that would follow. So then, there must be something hidden there. Please reinvestigate the victim of the dismemberment incident. He's alive. His death should have been assembled after the autopsy. Logically, you would think as much. But was that really the case? Could it have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? It shouldn't jump to conclusions. But he may still be alive. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh yeah. There's something even more important I needed to write. Tomatake-san's death was from an unknown drug. That's right. That drug. It was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt, just by having this, everything would be uncovered. I couldn't just leave the vital clue lying on the floor. This syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck the syringe into the back of the clock with plenty of tape. So it was absolutely not to slip off and fall to the floor. Firmly, firmly! The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write any more. But even still, there was one last thing I had to write. I have no idea why it's become like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth out of everything I wrote on this note. If you're reading this, then I'm probably already dead. Though you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that could happen, either dying from the curse or being demoned away, you who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. It wasn't certain that I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note and stuck it to the back of the clock and returned the clock back to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray. Oshi-san, if something happens to me, I leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed down silently at Rena and Mion. This is probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Rena, Mion, I really had thought all of us were friends. But why did it end up like this? I had never had any fun at my previous schools. I only worried about standardized test scores, about if the school I hoped to get into, where I really wanted to go, or a safety net. That's all I talked about. It's a dull life. The people I called friends were also my rivals in studying, in competitions, and personal records, and standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month was really fun. Making a fuss over lunch, making a fuss over a club, making a fuss over the festival. Something hot began dripping down my face, uncontrollable tears. I should have no obligation to shed tears for them, but they wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life, even if they were trying to kill me, everything that happened this month, I wouldn't forget it. Or could it be those happy days for all of Facade as well? Was it all a trap, meticulously orchestrated up until today to ensnare me? Could it have been that I was just arbitrarily amused, assumed that they were my friends? That couldn't have been the case. Both Rena and Mion, they really were my friends. Those happy days, there was nothing fake or unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try and kill me. Or their minds had taken over, possessed by a supernatural entity known as Oshiro-sama. Regardless, both Rena and Mion, they were the best friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. Wait. They weren't the kind of people to sell off their friends, regardless of whether or not they were forced. There's no way such a thing like being possessed by Oshiro-sama could happen in reality. Then did the real Rena and Mion come after me? What was I thinking? What a silly, dumb idea. Having beaten down both Rena and Mion, I was still debating if they were the real ones or fakes. There was no real or fake. Only the reality that was before me. Rena and Mion were spiraled at my feet. That was the only truth. I was only trying to twist the facts to my benefit, that I had beaten my friends to death. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change reality. Rena and Mion were both dead. It felt like there was a crack in the dam of strange emotions I was holding back. It felt like my calm state, which is nothing more than a bluff, had receded, and in that opening, insanity was leaking out. I killed them. I killed them. Rena and Mion. I killed them! The doorbell rang again. That unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever or whatever was pushing me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass. I would survive. I would survive. I would definitely survive. I killed Rena for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went that far just to keep living. So I can't die. For my sake and for the sake of the late Rena and Mion. I had to survive. I ran towards the door and grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again, as if to urge me on. Behind the single solitary door, they were there. Keeping quiet, I headed towards the kitchen, heading towards the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one. After I put on my shoes, I opened the door slowly as not to make a sound. There he is, the back door! A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of here, Keiichi! One after the other, I felt stuff like rationale and intelligence, those things you use when you have time to spare, spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching my arms and forehead. My autonomous pulsing heart had felt neither fatigue nor pain. My entire being just wished to live. There was nothing else it desired. Probably had no complaints whatsoever. So, of course, I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran. Just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if nobody was chasing after me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind for where I was headed. Turning around, I felt a presence right next to me. That presence was, without a doubt, chasing me like a shadow. If I took even one misstep, I'd be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran. At full speed. That was the chirping of the Higurashi telling me it was evening. Trying to tell me something, and I finally heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining them? Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. So I ran towards where I could hear more of the Higurashi's chirps. But the farther I ran, the farther away their chirping became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I felt that only the Higurashi knew. God, I'm almost at tears. Oh, chased by shot. That's a nice image! The smoking room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expensive smoke filter gave off some crackling electric noise, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to stove off so far away down this corridor where the sun didn't even reach? I recall hearing the tax revenue from tobacco was about 1/10 of the municipality's revenue. We were the most heavily taxed members of this municipality, so I really wish they'd show us a little more respect. Oh yeah, but you're giving yourself cancer! Why would you discard the 5 manzu there? It's just decreasing your options. One of the younger detectives was having a staring contest with the mahjong magazine called Next Turn. You're still in tenpai if you cut down the 5 manzu. If you're betting on haitei, then shouldn't you be going in with a mangan? Kuma-chan, look at the pond. They're all discarded at 5 manzu. It's a safe title. If you hated if it had an endgame, someone sitting on a tenpai at the last turn, wouldn't you? The kid let out another groan, put out a cigarette, and took out another one. I just don't agree. Why would you reduce your own options? By the way, you can't call Ron with your winning. Tile in that hand at haitei. What? Why is that? Just then I heard a voice coming from down the hall. Are you there, Oshi-san? You have a call from a civilian. Whoa, ain't that something? Well, see you soon. I don't understand mahjong rules at all. What? Can't you call Ron on that? Hold on for a second, Oshi-san! The man sitting in the seat Oshi-san was headed towards waved at the telephone receiver. Outside line. From a payphone. Oh, why thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Oshi. Who is this? Oh, Oshi-san. Hello. Well, if it isn't Mayabaro-san. Why, good evening. From the tone Mayabaro-kun's voice, I already knew he was in a predicament. This was the first time Mayabaro-kun had phoned me, and he was calling from a payphone. Please calm down. Did something happen? His voice was erratic over the line, and he had completely lost his sense of composure. After checking that nobody else could hear, I prompted him with a hushed tone. What happened? Calm down, Mayabara-san. I have the local officers head to your location. I'll be there soon, too. I think that's impossible. His voice was quavering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people even as he was making this call, was he? Mayabara-san, you're calling from a payphone right now, right? Where's that payphone? There was no other surroundings beside Mayabara-kun's voice. It had to be a phone booth. I scratched out a note and thrust it at my colleague sitting across from me. Hirumizawa phone booth. He understood quickly and hastily started on the internal lines. Calm down, Mayabara-san. What is your current situation? It usually wasn't a good idea to tell someone panicking to do so, but this was not a usual case. Mayabara-kun didn't get in trouble, get away, and then call me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now. But yelling at Mayabara-kun right now would just needlessly cause him to be even more frantic. Mayabara-kun wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell us something more than that. And whatever that was, if I didn't get it from this call, I was certain there would never be another chance. My colleague pushed a note in front of me. There's only one booth in Hinumizawa. A patrol car is on the way. 5 minutes. That's too long. How many officers are in there? 2. Not enough. If it was as I imagined, there was likely quite a few people surrounding Mayabara-kun. 5 minutes was too long. Did you call the officer station in Hinumizawa? He's scheduled to be on patrol. They're currently out. It'd be impossible to contact them. God damn! Kuma-chan, bend the call around! Understood! Hello? Oshi-san? Hello! It's alright. I can hear you loud and clear. There was something wrong with Mayabara-kun. This wasn't a normal coughing sound. Vomiting? Or was it blood? Was he already being attacked? Was he injured? Mayabara-san, the police are on their way. They'll be there in a couple minutes, so hold on somehow. Hello? Can you hear me? Mayabara-san! I could hear on the other side that he was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped into my head. Mayabara-san! Who's the culprit? How many are there? I thought at first the culprit was human. I couldn't tell if it was coughing or vomiting. Are you right, Maribara-san? I thought that the culprit was the person and not Oroshiro-sama's curse up until right now, but I guess in the end it was an intense bout of coughing, then vomiting. But I guess Oroshiro-sama does exist. No, he's here. Maribara-san, please just calm down. I had been thinking it was strange for a while now. It's been following me this whole time. I run and I run and run and run, but it just sticks to me like a shadow. But slowly, so slowly, it's taking itself into my back. Maribara-san, are they right now, perhaps, right behind you? Behind me. Right behind me. Please, Maribara-san, I can tell you're scared. But please, who is it that's right behind you? I can't just look behind me. If I do, I understand you're scared, but please tell me. You just need to turn around a bit. Who is it? Who is behind you, Maribara-san? Right after it said that, I could hear him vomiting intensely. What followed was a nightmare sound. Maribara-san, it couldn't be that you're clawing out your own throat. There was no answer, but I could hear something like scratching. There was a bang, as if something had been hit. Maribara-kun had probably dropped the receiver. I could hear her groaning and vomiting over on the other end, in a repeated abnormal noise. Hello? Hello? Maribara-san! Hello! I knew how far away my voice would sound on the other end, but I couldn't help but shout. At that moment, I heard whispering coming from the other end. I couldn't tell what he was saying. From the way he was saying it, was he talking to himself? Or was he talking to someone there? Hello? Maribara-san? Rather than whispering, it was some kind of mantra he was chanting over and over. I focused my senses, trying to pick up what he was saying. What was he repeating? What exactly? Beep! Suddenly the line went dead. Did he use up his time? Was it because it was a payphone? Was it because it cut out so abruptly? The last thing he came out was so clearly in my mind. Oshi-san, the car is good to go. Oshi-san? It was... I'm sorry. Oshi-san? That's what he was repeating over and over. He said, I'm sorry. I had a gut feeling. There was no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi spilling in from the open window. I should have been able to hear them this entire time. I just wasn't paying any attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Were they trying to tell me something? Only the Higurashi knew. That's how I felt. July 1983. In Hinamizawa, a remote village near Shimbon City, there was a murder involving 2 female students. The suspect is Keiichi Maribara, age 15. The suspect called over his 2 female friends, Rena Ryugu, Mion Sonzaki, to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room on the 2nd floor of his house. The inside of the room was covered with a significant quantity of splattered blood, and there were signs of struggle with the victims. In addition to the scene of the crime, the entryway, living room, and kitchen all had traces of a struggle. At the entryway, the shoe rack and wall had evidence of being impacted by a strong blunt force. It is believed that it had been the same bat as the murder weapon. Having no trace of blood, it is believed that the destruction occurred before the murders. There is a possibility that the subject overpowered his victims to keep them from fleeing. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back and thrown aside. It's hard to believe that this was a connection to the struggle with the victims, and thus the reason for this remains unknown. In the kitchen, the garbage bag was torn apart, and the contents were spread out on the floor. Garbage was strewn about in the surrounding area, and handprints were believed to belong to the suspect were discovered. It is believed the suspect had for some reason taken out the garbage and struck it with his fists. The reason for this remains unknown. In addition, there was a note stuck to the fridge. The words, "Was there a needle?" were written on it. The meaning behind this remains unclear. Just in case, the garbage was searched, but a needle was not discovered. Though the garage door was functional, it had been left open ever since the subject moved in. The garage door is found closed. The suspect's fingerprints were discovered on the garage door. The reason behind this remains unknown. The suspect fled the scene of the crime. However, a patrolling officer, Hinamizawa Local PD, found the suspect collapsed inside a phone booth. At the time of discovery, the suspect was unconscious in critical condition. He was rushed over to the local hospital for treatment, but he did not regain consciousness and died 24 hours later. The result of the autopsy indicated that the immediate cause of death would have been hypovolemic shock. It was determined that the subject had clawed out his own throat with his fingernails, and the resulting bleeding caused his death. With the similarity of the death of Tomatake-san the previous week, the police believe there is a connection and have opened up an investigation. However, due to the wishes of the local authorities, it will be a confidential investigation. Due to the abnormal nature of the death, it was suspected that drugs were involved, but as with Tomatake-san, no traces were discovered. What prompted all this remaining unexplainable. As such, this case is being treated as an act committed on impulse. However, with several accounts of the suspect's bizarre behavior leading up to the incident, it's possible this is premeditated. Separated from his group of friends, isolation, inexplicable behavior. Several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. The suspect was observing displaying aggressive behavior, as well as talking to himself at school. His classmates had actually heard portions of what he was saying. 2 days before the incident, the suspect declared that his parents the possibility of his death. Due to these circumstances, the police had begun an investigation on the possibility this crime was not committed on impulse, but instead planned several days in advance. Afterwards, a note was found on the suspect's room that he had written himself. The note was written on 2 sheets of p.5 college-ruled notebook paper that had been torn in half. As if to conceal it, was stuck behind a clock on the wall. The contents were written in the appendix. The police believe it was strongly related to the incident. The police changed their line of investigating based on the possibility that the suspect was involved in some sort of incident himself. However, no further clues were found, casting doubt on the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulsive or premeditative? With the certain situation unclear, no further developments, the case has been labeled as unresolved. Even in the end, Keiichi didn't get his wish. However, the following year, suspicion arose regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written on 2 halves of b5 separated in 2 separate sheets, but it was originally a single sheet of b5 paper. In order to erase several lines from the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. It's highly probable that the person who eliminated the lines in question is not the suspect. In addition, judging from the traces of large quantities of cellophane tape being stuck to the back of the clock, speculation that something other than the note was stuck there has arisen. The person who first discovered the crime was a detective rumored to have connection with the incident, Kurodaro Oshi. He underwent voluntary questioning, but denies involvement in any damages to the note. The suspect's note. I, Keiichi Marabara, am in fear of my life. I do not know why they are after my life. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Otoshiro-sama's curse. Benna and Mion are conspirators of the proprietors. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is all in the first sheet. Everything below this has been ripped out. This is from the second sheet. Everything above has been ripped out. I have no idea why it's become like this. If you're reading this, then I am probably already dead. Though the only difference may be the presence or lack of a body. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. This is my only desire. Keiichi Maribara. Well, in the end, they couldn't uncover the truth because the syringe was gone. Fucking, who took the syringe away? Who looked behind the clock, took out the syringe, and those 2 pieces, those 3 lines that had the whole Tomitake-san died by blood. A new scenario is locked. All cast review sessions become available. To play it, press extra on the title menu, and then click on the all cast review session. Please uncover the truth. Oh! I didn't know there was extras. I didn't know there was going to be extras. Extra. All cast review session. I'm curious, I don't know what this is.
Thank you for buying Higurashi When They Cry Onikakushi, a visual novel by 7th Expansion. How was it? If you enjoyed it, even a little bit, it'd make me happy.
Even a little bit is stretching it. That incredibly dark ending made me angry, you know?
Made us angry.
As I understand it, this Onikakushi chapter is supposed to be somewhat of a prologue to the entire series. How could the prologue have such an incredibly dark ending? Yeah, but doesn't it happen sometimes? The player digging through the story in order to avoid a bad ending is the point of those types of games, after all.
It's still just the first chapter. I'm looking forward to the next one.
What happens in the next chapter? Rena, do you know?
Yeah, they said the next chapter will introduce another aspect of the story.
That's a strange way of putting it. What does that mean?
In this chapter, they introduced a string of mysterious deaths that happened in Hinamizawa recently, right? The next chapter will introduce some of the history of Hinamizawa.
With one strange event happening after another, I got totally lost. What exactly is Otoshiro-sama's curse about? Actually, what is Otoshiro-sama to begin with? They didn't explain it much.
I haven't heard much about it, but I have kind of a bad feeling about it. It feels like it'll be another one of those scary stories where someone gets cursed again.
Tough luck, eh, Kei-chan? What kind of curse is he going to be hit with this time? However, I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of story it's going to be. Oshi-san! Sorry for being late, my bad. Tomitake! Hey, everybody! Good work today! What, is this all just a play? Same to you! Huh? Where's Kei-chan? Keiichi-kun is already off reading the script for the next chapter. Yes, they're acting like it's a play, I love it! It's gonna be hard being the main character.
Huh? That's too bad. He could have at least poked in to say hello. It's probably because he doesn't have any character art, so he can't poke his head in even if he wanted to.
They're poking fun at the fact that he had no art originally. Rika-san, that's what we refer to as a personal problem. In any case, that story really has a lot of trouble, especially for Keiichi-kun and Rena-chan. Trouble? That was the mother of all bad ends!
I wonder, what kind of an identity that thing that attacked Keiichi-kun?
My theory is that it was the work of people made to make it look like a curse.
But at the end, Keiichi made the phone call.
Yeah. I also thought that the call was strange. At that point, Kei-chan would be almost certain that the culprits were people. That really was a strange phone call. It almost sounded like he was being chased by a ghost or something.
Just from the phone call, it really makes me think that was the work of a curse after all.
Since we're all here, why don't we all share our theories? Let's start with Sonozaki-san. I absolutely believe it was people. I think it was a man-made incident that just imitating the strange folklore floating around Hinamizawa.
Certainly. Every year on the day of the festival, for another link in the chain of mysterious deaths to happen certainly is suspicious.
That so-called chain of mysterious deaths? It certainly is somebody trying to reenact the folklore, definitely. I think it's the curse. Looking at the scene where Keiichi went berserk in the entryway, and the only last scene with the phone call, I just couldn't come with the conclusion the person was the culprit.
When you say it that way, it really wasn't the type of scene that would make you think it was the work of an actual person.
Yeah, but even then, I still think it was the person who did it. The last scene, the one with the entryway, I think it might have been a delusional episode brought on from post-traumatic stress disorder. I wouldn't know what's going on anymore, even if we didn't use such complicated words!
In other words, Keiichi was so scared that he was imagining things.
Then the meaning behind that scene, what exactly was that mysterious presence behind Keiichi? A red herring. Red herring!
Mii-chan, what do you mean by a red herring?
Like old man Tomatake here said, the scene was the result of Kei-chan having a stress-induced delusion from being mentally cornered. Just expand that a bit further, it's a ploy to make the player think it was a curse. That's why it was a red herring. When you say it like that, but... just means that there's that possibility.
In that case, the theory that Oshi-san proposed during the story was that it was a conspiracy by the villagers was correct? What does that man himself have to say about that?
Me? It makes you think, eh? I totally thought that Oshi-san would be behind the people explanation. During the story, I said it was definitely the work of people, but if a person really was to blame, that leaves a lot of loose ends.
Like what? Let us hear what Detective Oshi-san's theory is.
First of all, if a human's the culprit, then there has to be a motive. In other words, somebody has to gain something from it.
So what you mean is that it's the work of people. There'd have to be something gained from causing the chain of mysterious deaths.
Exactly. I felt that somebody could have benefited from the deaths of people related to the dam development, but recent victims weren't related to that at all. First of all, who benefits from killing Keiichi-kun? I see. If you say it like that, my case is kind of weak too.
I mean, none of your money was stolen. There's no way it was human culprits. But that's not everything there is to it, right? Like Michan just said, there might have been some sort of reason for them to reenact the folklore.
Exactly. This wasn't a murder where you consider the typical motives. It makes me think that this was most likely some sort of ritualistic murder to reenact the blood-stained history of the village.
So I'll ask the question of the hour. Who gains from this reenactment?
It's not about simple benefit. There's more of a psychological reason. I think that maybe this was an act of revenge, something native to the region. Fate was unable to be fooled this time around. I see. A member of some repressed family looking to air out an old grudge of their ancestors, something like that? I don't like that. Then what is it? It couldn't be that you're leaning towards the curse explanation, Oshi-san.
That's right! The man playing the detective said so! It's decided, it was the curse!
If, like how Mayabara said during the story, if it was the case that Oshi-sama possessed Rena-san and Sonozaki-san and committed those acts, that would fit the evidence the most. As much as I hate to say it.
Actually, I have about the same opinion as Oshi-san. I can't come up with any other explanation for the normal, kind Rena and Michan to suddenly start acting strange like that.
Delusions of grandeur? About that, it may sound strange coming from the person herself, but I think that I, Mion, did it.
I don't get what Mi is saying. I'd like an explanation.
Oh, sorry. In other words, I think that this may end up being a real cruel story.
Huh? Wait, Michan, you don't mean...
If you follow the train of evidence to the very end, it would be how it seems. I also have my suspicions. In other words, Rena-san and Sonozaki-san both had those personalities to begin with, and were merely deceiving Mayabara-san. Am I right?
I don't like that at all! This is all the curse's fault! Rena-san and Mion-san and everybody else are kind, nice people! I think that too! I think that Rena and Mion-chan are all really good people at heart! I think that during the story they definitely were possessed by something!
So Rena thinks it was a curse. Then let me ask everybody who thinks it was the curse. There has to be a reason for a curse, right? I don't think there'd be something indiscriminately cursing everything. Can someone explain that? A curse is a curse! Human logic won't get us anywhere. Sadako-chan! A personified deity is, in end, nothing more than the creation of people. That's why their methods of thinking is also understandable to humans. Just take a look at the Greek pantheon. They cry, get angry, get jealous. Basically, they're just like humans. Especially Zeus, who will fuck everything that moves.
So what you're saying is that Otoshiro-sama's cursing people with some benefit in mind?
That's an odd way of putting it, but basically yes. That's why they say, far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. You do have a point.
Basically, it doesn't matter if it's Otoshiro-sama or humans. There has to be a reason.
But Rika, what if the reason isn't clear?
I don't know. That's right! This is still just the prologue. There's still a lot of stuff that hasn't been revealed yet.
Yeah, it's hard to come up with any more theories at this point. No! I won't be satisfied until it's all made clear.
Mion-san seems rather particular about this as well.
Well, let's just make the best with what we know. Doesn't that feel interesting? Like the club a little bit?
Yeah! If you put it that way, it does seem interesting.
Well then, let's summarize. Let's see if I think there was a curse. Tomotakeya-kun thinks it was people, right? Yeah, I'll go with it being people. I also agree with the people explanation. That's not to say that I hate fantastical things as curses, but this particular case, the connection with the curse is a little weak. 2 for the people explanation then. Rena-san is on the curse side of things, right?
Yep. Sadako-chan and I believe it was a curse, right?
Yeah, I think it was a curse. People who say that Rena and Mion-san are evil to begin with are more befitting of a curse. Well, I don't want to believe that my own personality was that twisted, but I have to be cool when I'm in club mode. If I base my choices on just emotion, I'll regret it, you know. Well now, it doesn't really matter which side you pick, does it? Huh? Rika-chan hasn't said anything yet. What do you think?
I don't think that Otoshiro-sama is a bad god.
Huh? That's an interesting opinion.
I don't want to worship some bad god that just curses people. I'd like a generous god more than one that curses. That's right, Rika-chan is a shrine maiden. Yep, good opinion.
Then what? If Rika-chan doesn't believe it was Otoshiro-sama, then do you think that the perpetrators were human after all?
We'll just go with that.
Rika-chan, that's such an obtuse answer! Well now, that means the votes are split right down the middle. So half of us think it was a curse, and half of us think it was people. Rena-chan, just for reference, what did the test players who played the beta version think?
Yeah, there were a lot more players who believed in the people explanation.
See, right there! Our veteran comrades are all cool, collected, and very observant.
But the beta version only finished partway through the story. That's right! Even if the players who played the beta might change their minds as they got through to the very end.
What should we do then? This means that the opinions are still split. It's no fun if we don't settle this. We need there to be an odd number of judges. In other words, we need one more opinion.
Ah, perfect timing then! Why don't we ask Keiichi-kun himself? Let's call him!
The opinion of the victim himself is very valuable. Since that's decided, it's time for the phone. I'm reading my lines, leave me alone! Hello, Keiichi-kun.
Hello, Keiichi-kun, it's Rena. Are you busy with work right now?
Yeah, really busy. Just when I thought I'd get the break when the chapter's over, it's already time for the next one. How's Kei-chan? Busy?
Yeah, he's moping.
I can hear you, you know. Must be nice having a wrap-up party. I wanted to go too.
You can come if you get some character art for yourself.
Rika, that's a secret.
Sorry about that, Keiichi-kun. Anyway, during the current chapter, Keiichi-kun, didn't you die? We were just talking about who the culprit might be.
Basically, we're deadlocked on whether it was people or Otoshiro-sama's curse that killed you. I'm really sorry.
Even though you're busy reviewing the script, Keiichi-kun, which do you think it was?
That's obvious, isn't it?
Which?
Isn't it both of them? Targeted by suspicious people from the village and then cursed by some strange Otoshiro-sama on top of that. It's both humans and a curse! Everybody's just picking on me!
So very, very pitiful. Next time I'll pat you on the head for you.
It's both! It's both! In the end, the opinion's still split, huh? I'll think this over again. We might have missed something.
Well then, please look forward to the next release, Higurashi When They Cry, Watanagashi!
And that's what I'll be doing next week, because I'm taking the weekend off, because I need a break, because this is a lot of reading. But I know to make my streams at least 2 hours, because this one's ending off at 2 hours. Whew, that was a lot of reading. That was fun, though. That was really fun. Oh, it's a Nakushi party! I can now do chapter jumps. See, I can jump from each day, from different parts of each day. That's pretty cool. And that's actually something you need to do in the last in the last set of chapters. And there's all the things. Alright, I've 100%ed this game, pretty much as best as I can. So you guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night and aren't cursed by Oroshiro-sama. So, have a wonderful rest of your night. And sweet dreams.